Good afternoon, everybody. Anthony Aniano here from RotoBaller Radio and RotoBaller.com with an early look at the fantasy football waiver wire for Week 5 of your fantasy football season. As always, using Yahoo roster percentages as our talking point, trying to keep it to players rostered in 50% or less leagues or available in 50% or more of your leagues. Recording this Sunday evening after the late games. So recording before, there's still 3 games on the slate, so recording before Sunday night and both Monday night matchups. That's the reason I call it the early look at the waiver wire for Week 5. Now let's dive into some injuries that occurred in Week 5. Quarterback Anthony Richardson left the game with a hip injury. Reports are coming out now throughout the day that he could have come back if needed. It doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term situation. Running back Travis Etienne of the Jaguars left the game, but did come back in the game. So not too concerned there, although we will talk about Tank Bigsby. But at the wide receiver position, we got a little beat up. Christian Watson, injured, did not return. Malik Neighbors with the concussion Thursday night. We see what happens with him in a couple of days. And Rashee Rice, we know, carted off the field. Looks like a bad knee injury for the Kansas City star wide receiver. So let's get into it here at the quarterback position. Oh, one other thing. I apologize. Week 5 starts the bye weeks, right? So no Detroit Lions, no Los Angeles Chargers, no Philadelphia Eagles, and no Tennessee Titans. So make adjustments based on those players being off for Week 5. That being said, now let's take a look at the quarterback position. The number one ad for me at the quarterback position, I've mentioned Sam Darnold over and over again. He's now over 50% rostered, so that leaves us with Justin Fields and his availability. Rostered in 31% of Yahoo leagues, so he's available roughly in 70% of leagues. Threw for 312 yards and a touchdown. Used his legs as well. 10 carries, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In a 6-point per passing touchdown format, Justin Fields finished with just about 34 fantasy points. Goes up against that Dallas Cowboys defense this week that did a good job against Daniel Jones and the Giants, keeping them out of the end zone. But Dallas you can run against. And again, if you're missing Jared Goff, if you're missing Justin Herbert with Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields may be the best available quarterback to add. After him would be Andy Dalton of the Carolina Panthers, kind of cementing his role there as the quarterback for the Panthers, in my opinion, just making everybody around him better. Rostered in 14% of leagues. I used Andy Dalton this week in a 2 QB format, FFPC format. Started him over Anthony Richardson, so it paid off. Andy Dalton, 220 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception this week. 6-point per passing touchdown format, 19.7 fantasy points on the road against the Chicago Bears. And third, and it really is dependent on Anthony Richardson's situation, but that would be Joe Flacco of the Colts. Available essentially everywhere, 99% of leagues. He threw for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. What matters to me is he made Michael Pittman relevant. He made Josh Downs relevant. He was doing what Anthony Richardson couldn't do, and that's get those wide receivers involved in the offense for the Indianapolis Colts. Joe Flacco, available, like we said, 99% of leagues. He finished with 19 fantasy points this week coming off the bench. Good matchup on the road against the Jaguars next week. So if Anthony Richardson does not play, I could start Joe Flacco with confidence and feel better about my Michael Pittman shares going forward. Now, at the running back position, we wanted some clarity of the Kansas City Chiefs running back room, and I believe we're starting to get it now, as Kareem Hunt had the bulk load of the work for the Kansas City Chiefs. 14 carries for Kareem Hunt plus 2 receptions. Samaje Perine, 5 carries. Carson Steele, only 2. So Kareem Hunt was the workhorse. Now, Samaje Perine did get the long goal line carry late in the game to give the Kansas City Chiefs the victory. But Kareem Hunt, 14 carries for 69 yards, 2 catches for 16 yards, finished with 10.5 fantasy points. If he's going to be more than a goal line running back, if he's going to get 15 to 17 touches a game, he's a usable running back going forward, and that includes next week against the New Orleans Saints. Kareem Hunt is rostered in only 35% of leagues, makes him available 65% of formats. Also available at the running back position, Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you have Travis Etienne, you may want to grab Bigsby. He had a nice game, 7 carries for 90 yards, 9 fantasy points going against the Colts this week, and we monitor the Travis Etienne injury that took him out momentarily during the game. And finally, the third running back I do want to mention is Rashawn Johnson of the Chicago Bears. Now, DeAndre Swift finally has the game we hoped he would if we drafted him. I had him benched in a few spots, to be honest with you. But DeAndre Swift has his best game. They talk about getting Rashawn Johnson more involved. They didn't as much as you would think. Only 7 carries, 26 yards, but he did get in the end zone. 8.6 fantasy points against Carolina next week. Again, a nice handcuff, though, if you have DeAndre Swift on your roster. Now, the wide receiver position, where the injuries occurred in bulk this week, Watson, Neighbors, and Rashee Rice. 3 names to be mindful of. First is right there in Green Bay, Dontavian Wicks of the Green Bay Packers. 13% rostered, 87% available. 13 targets, 5 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Green Bay was behind. Jordan Love was throwing it everywhere. Jaden Reed had a big game. Dontavian Wicks also a big game, 24.8 fantasy points, and he could step in to the Christian Watson role if Watson misses some time. Green Bay on the road against the Rams week 5. Also available, one of the benefactors of Andy Dalton and a benefactor from the Adam Thielen injury is first-round draft pick for Carolina, Xavier Legette. 14% rostered, available in 86% of leagues. He was targeted 10 times, 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown, 19.6 fantasy points. It's a first-round pedigree there, so I'm always interested in that. Xavier Legette in Carolina on the road against the Bears next week. And third, benefiting from Joe Flacco, was Josh Downs, Colts number 2 wide receiver opposite Michael Pittman. Vet rostered 20% of leagues, available in 80%. He was targeted 9 times, 8 for 82, and a touchdown, 22.2 fantasy points. The Colts against the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 5. And finally, at the tight end position, 2 tight ends to be mindful of. My top ad at the tight end position is Cade Otton of the Tampa Bay Bucks. 15% rostered, available in 85% of leagues. He's got 17 targets and 13 receptions over the last 2 weeks, showing a nice floor of consistency there in that Tampa Bay offense. This week, he was 6 catches on 9 targets, 52 yards, 11.2 fantasy points. Tampa Bay against Atlanta in week 5. And Tucker Kraft of Green Bay. I like Cade Otton more, even though Tucker Kraft had the bigger game, because it kind of came out of nowhere with Tucker Kraft. Again, that Green Bay comeback. Jordan Love just slinging the ball all over the field. He's available in 96% of leagues. 6 for 53 and a touchdown, 17.3 fantasy points for the Packers tight end as they go up against the Rams in week 5. So to recap, my early look at the week 5 waiver wire: quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, and Joe Flacco, depending on the Anthony Richardson situation. Running backs, Kareem Hunt, Tank Bigsby, and Rashawn Johnson. Wide receivers, Dontavian Wicks, Xavier Legette, and Josh Downs. And at the tight end position, Cade Otton and Tucker Kraft. As always, everybody, head over to RotoBaller.com right now. Sign up for our NFL Premium Pass. Use the promotional code ACES and save at checkout. Like and subscribe right here to the RotoBaller YouTube channel. And download the RotoBaller app. It's completely free. Whether it's DFS or sports betting, whatever it is you're looking for, RotoBaller.com has you covered. Give me a follow on Twitter or X at @AnianoFantasy. Good luck with the rest of your matchups, and we'll see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio.